Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about graphing quadratic functions. Alright, we're going to talk about three different forms: vertex form, standard form, and factored form. But before we get to those forms, let's graph just a basic quadratic. And the most basic quadratic we have is just y equals x squared. Alright, quadratic because of that x squared part. Now, if we're trying to graph something that we've never seen before, we always just use a table, because that's easy. We just pick our x values and plug them in. So I'm going to pick a couple x values here, and I'm going to plug them into my function. So -1 quantity squared is +1, 0 squared is 0, and 1 squared is 1. So if I were to plot these points, -1, 1, 0, 0, and 1, 1, we would start to see the general shape of our quadratic function. And this is actually the general shape of every quadratic function, and we call that a parabola. Alright, parabola is just one of the many words we're going to be using in this section to talk about graphing. So to give you a better idea of all those words, you've got a little spot for you to fill in some definitions. So go ahead and pause this video and fill in the definitions to make sure that you've got them down and that you've read through them. Alright, just to give you a better idea, I'll go through them real quick. A parabola, like I said, that's the shape of our quadratic function. The vertex is our minimum or maximum. So in this case, it's this point right here, and since it's the lowest point, it'd be a minimum. Our line of symmetry is the line that divides our parabola in half, so perhaps you can see that line right here. And it will always be a vertical line in these situations, so it's always x equals a number. And lastly, our x-intercepts, or also called zeros, are the points where our graph touches the x-axis. Alright, the reason they're called zeros is because it's also where y equals 0. Alright, let's get started graphing then. Alright, when we talk about graphing in vertex form is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And the reason it's called vertex form is because it's really easy to find the vertex when we're in this form. Alright, so when we're in vertex form, we are going to know what the vertex is. We'll just look at it and we'll know. Alright, but we need more than the vertex in order to graph. We also need our x-intercepts. And in this case, we won't know those right off the bat, so we're going to use our calculator to get our x-intercepts. So let's see what this would look like. Alright. In order to figure out which way it opens, we're going to look at our a value, so the number that's right out front. In this case, that's just a 1. Since it's positive, it's going to open up. If it were negative, it would open down. As for our vertex, the vertex of a function in vertex form is determined by the h and k values. So it's the opposite of the number inside and the same as the number outside. So the opposite of -1 is 1, the same as -9 is -9. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and plot that vertex so that we can see that our line of symmetry is going to be this line going straight through our vertex, and that line is x equals 1. Alright, now the last thing I need are my x-intercepts, and I'm going to use my calculator in order to find them. So, if you don't have your calculator out, take it out now because I want you to follow along with me. Alright, in your calculator, you're going to go into y equals, and you're going to type our equation into your y equals. I've already got it there, so I'm all set. I'm going to press zoom 6 just to make sure I'm in a good window, and there's the graph of my function. Now here are my two x-intercepts. I'm going to find one of them at a time, so this left one I'll find first. And in order to find it, we're going to go second, trace, and see how one option is 0. Well, remember, that's the same thing as an x-intercept. So I'm going to go down to that option. The first thing it asks you is left bound. That means they want your cursor to be to the left of the 0 you're trying to find, or the x-intercept. So I'm going to move my cursor all the way to the left of that x-intercept, and I'm going to press enter. Now it wants a right bound, so I'm going to move it to the right of my x-intercept. And when it says guess, you can just press enter because it'll be able to find it. And there is our first x-intercept, or 0. -2, 0. Now I'm going to repeat the process for my second x-intercept. So I go back into second trace, down to 0. This time I need to be to the left of my other x-intercept, so I'm going to move over. So that's to the left. I'm going to press enter. Then I'm going to move even more so that I'm to the right of the point and press enter. And then I can press enter on guess. And there's my second x-intercept, which is 4, 0. So now I have the 3 points I need, my vertex and my 2 x-intercepts. -2, 0, and 4, 0. So since I know the shape is a parabola, I'm good with sketching it with those 3 points, and there is my graph. Alright, let's try another one in this form. So number 2, f of x equals -2x squared minus 2. Well, once again, to figure out which way it opens, I look at the number in front. That's negative this time, so it's going to be opening down. Alright, my vertex here, well, there's nothing inside here that I'm adding. So that's like saying 0, comma, -2. So there, oops, let's try it again. There is my vertex, which means that my line of symmetry just goes straight down through it. And that line is x equals 0. Once again, for my x-intercepts, I'm going to go ahead and use my calculator. So y equals, clear out the last equation and type in my new one, -2x squared minus 2. And I'm going to graph it and find my x-intercepts. Wait, do you notice what I notice? There are no x-intercepts here, right? It never touches the x-axis. That means that over here, I'm going to say that there are no x-intercepts. There are none. But I can't graph this parabola without more points. So if there ever aren't any x-intercepts, then you're going to find 2 other points in order to graph. Alright, you want one to be to the left of your vertex. Sorry, one left of vertex. And you want one to be to the right of your vertex. That way you know how to draw the parabola. Alright, so to the left of my vertex, in order to find these points, don't worry, we don't have to guess or anything. We're just going to take a look at our table. Second graph will go into our table. Alright, I need 1 point to the left of this vertex right here, so I'll pick when x is -1, and that gives me the point -1, -4. Alright, then I need one to the right, so I'll pick when x equals 1, and that gives me the point 1, -4. So now that I have these 2 other points, -1, -4, and 1, -4, now I've got enough information to draw my parabola. And there it is. Okay, so if you ever don't have any x-intercepts, we just pick 2 other points. Alright, go ahead and flip it over. Let's try a few more. To graph in factored form is y equals a times x minus p times x minus q. Alright, when we have a quadratic in factored form, that means we are going to know, there we go. We're going to know our x-intercepts right off the bat. But, kind of opposite of the last one, we're going to have to use our calculator to find the vertex. Alright, so let's try this number 3. We've got y equals 3 times x minus 1 times x plus 2. Once again, to figure out which way it opens, I look at the number out front. It's positive, so I'm going to open up. I don't know my vertex, and that means I also don't know my line of symmetry, so I'm going to save those for the calculator. But my x-intercepts I do know. These 2 numbers right here, our p and our q, those are our x-intercepts. p, 0, and q, 0. Notice how it's minus, that means it's the opposite. So here I've got a -1, so that's going to give me the x-intercept +1, 0, and +2 is going to give me the x-intercept -2, 0. So I can at least plot those. Now, in order to get my vertex, I'm going to use my calculator. Alright, remember how we talked about the vertex is either the maximum or the minimum? So that's what I'm going to use to find it. And I'm going to type this into my calculator, 3 times x minus 1 times x plus 2. And I'm going to graph it. So in this case, right here, that's the minimum of our graph. So that is my vertex. In order to find it, I'm going to go into second trace and see how there's an option that says minimum. Perfect. We'll use that. Now, once again, you're going to have to do the left bound, right bound stuff. So move to the left of that vertex and press enter. Move to the right of the vertex and press enter. And then press enter on guess. So right there is our vertex. And I'm going to round this to negative 0.5, comma negative 6.75. So negative 0.5 and negative 6.75, right about there. That means our line of symmetry should go straight through that x coordinate, so it's going to be x equals negative 0.5. And now I've got enough information to go ahead and graph my parabola, and there it is. Alright, awesome. Okay, I want you guys to try number 4 then on your own. Try it and see if you can come up with all the points. Okay, and let's take a look at one more using standard form. Standard form is the most difficult of them all. The equation is pretty straightforward. ax squared plus bx plus c. But the reason it's the most difficult one is because we know absolutely nothing just by looking at the equation. Can you believe it? Nothing. That means we're going to have to use our calculator to find everything. So the vertex and our x-intercepts. So let's try a little bit of this one. Alright, in order to figure out which way it opens, once again we look at the number out front. That's a negative 1/2, so this is going to open down. In order to find my vertex, like we talked about, I'm going to have to use my calculator. So in my y equals, I'm going to type this in. Negative 1/2 x squared minus x plus 6. Alright, by graphing it, I can see that my vertex is going to be the highest point, so it's our maximum. So I'm going to go into second trace, and this time I'm going to use maximum, number 4. And once again, I need to do my left bound. So there's to the left, and my right bound. There's to the right. On guess, just press enter, and there is our maximum, or our vertex. Alright, now this we can round to just negative 1, so it's going to be at negative 1, comma 6.5. It's not so bad. Negative 1, 6.5, right there. Well, let's make that a little better. Negative 1, 6, there we go. That means my line of symmetry is right through the x coordinate, so x equals negative 1. And now to get my x-intercepts, once again we're going to turn to our calculator. So this time I'm going to do second trace 0. That's another name for x-intercept, remember. In fact, let's write that down to remind ourselves. 0 is another name. Alright, and then I'm going to find one at a time. So I'm going to find this left one first. So that means I need to go to the left of that point. Press enter. Now right bound, so to the right of that point. Press enter, and then press enter again. So I've got negative 4.6, comma 0. Alright. If you go through those same exact steps again, but for our second x-intercept, and feel free to test it out to make sure I'm correct. In fact, I insist that you do. But you should end up getting a second x-intercept of 2.6, comma 0. So that's negative 4.6, comma 0. And 2.6, comma 0. So there is the graph. Ooh, that was bad. Let's try that again. Of our parabola. Alright. So, once again, I want you to try number 4 on your own. Now, if any of this video is confusing, feel free to go back and rewatch any part of it. I also want you to see that we've got this QR code. This is the link to another video that can give you some extra help on finding the vertex and the x-intercepts on the calculator. So if any of the calculator steps were confusing, take a look at this video because it'll help you a lot. Alright? Make sure you write down the calculator steps on your notes. That way you won't have as many questions. You'll be able to get through a lot more problems in class. Alright? Again, if anything was confusing, rewatch it. Otherwise, we'll see you next time in class. See ya!